Hey guys, my name's Kelsey. I am an art print shop turned service pattern designer, and today I'm going to be teaching you the basics of Illustrator and how I use it to make patterns. Right now you can see me at the bottom, but the main screen that you're looking at is actually my laptop. So if you see me looking down, that's why I'm looking at my laptop. But this is when you very first open Illustrator, this is what you're going to see. So mine is going to look a little different since I do use it more. So down here, if you've never used it before and this is your first time ever even opening it, this is probably going to be empty. So this is just a bunch of patterns. Some are freelance work, some are my own work, but it's where you'll get your most recent. So if you ever save something and instead of having to like go over here, press open, go through all your files, it should be right here. Assuming that you don't have anything down here, we're going to go to File. So for me, personally, it is complete preference. I use these two the most. All the rest of these are different, maybe freelance work, or I was playing around with something. But overall, the two that I use are these. So it's 2000 by 2000 pixels and 2000 by 24,000 or 2400 pixels. These are the two I use if you're looking for a perfect square, clearly the 2000 by 2000. If you're looking for more of a rectangle, for me personally, I use the rectangle a bit more now because it helps kind of hide your repeat. I personally like it, but for the sake of this video, we're going to use 2000 by 2000. It was what I started with, and it helps you overall because it's one number you have to remember every time you move something. So for starters, we're going to use this, but if you are a little bit more used to making a pattern in Illustrator, by all means you can use this rectangle. What I do love about Illustrator is you don't really have to worry about the size if you are vectorizing art. Vectorizing art is a specifically Illustrator thing. It's what people use Illustrator for. Vectorizing art means that instead of it being pixels, which would be something Photoshop would use, it is actually lines, so everything you're making has lines. So if you need to, make a billboard, then you would use Illustrator because Illustrator uses lines, so you can make it as big as you need without ever losing the quality. So this is why a lot of people in surface pattern design use Illustrator, because if you make one pattern, it's vectorized. You don't have to worry about if a client comes to you and is like, well, I need this on the side of a building, and you can't because you didn't make the original file big enough for that. You don't have to worry about that because it's vectorized. You can make it as big or as small as you want without losing the quality. So this is our 2000 by 2000 pixel thing. You can zoom in and out using your two fingers on your mouse pad. I am using a Mac, so some things will be a little bit different, but even when I had a Dell computer, I was still able to do this with my mouse and my fingers. So we're going to start over here. This is the selection tool. The selection tool is it's basically just your mouse. It's how you click things. If you have an image, you'll be able to click it and move it over. All of those great things. Now, the direct selection tool moves your points. So if you make a triangle, you'll be able to move one point on that triangle, whether you want it to be down, closer to one way, or closer to another way. You can move that one point instead of moving the entire object. This is the pen tool. If you want to make a shape that's not a square, a circle, a star, something like that, you want to make something a little bit more, maybe more abstract, this is the curvation tool. So if any of you are into like 80s, maybe even 90s, early 2000s kind of styles, you can make really, really fun, funky shapes with this. So instead of having, with the pen tool, how you have to hold down the button to make the curves, this naturally does it for you. It'll make curves that work with all the points that you're using. Now, this is the rectangle tool. I use this thing so much. The rectangle tool is perfect for making your backgrounds. So if you have a complete pattern, you're done, part of making the pattern is having a background and then having a copy of that background with no color behind it. That way Illustrator knows everything in this box, which is the background, it's one thing. So that's how you make your repeat pattern, is with the rectangle tool. You can add colors and all that to it. You can also double click, and you see you have regular rectangle, which is also M, the ellipse tool, which you can press L, polygon tool, star tool, and then line segment tool, which is just your little hash mark. I mainly personally use the rectangle tool to make backgrounds, but it is good to know that that is there. Next is the paintbrush tool. Illustrator has a lot of default paintbrushes, so don't feel like you need to buy Illustrator paintbrushes. Try out these, see if you like any of them. You can also double click, and it has the paintbrush tool, which would be B, the blob brush tool, which is Shift B, and then the pencil tool, which is N. Next we have text. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Naturally, yours will probably come out this small, but you can just type whatever you want, and it does that. And then when you press your selection tool, it makes this cute little box. Hold Shift, and you can make it bigger. So it's really nice if you're into typography. Illustrator has a bunch of already ready set tools that you can come in right here, and you can go through all of these. You can also get free ones on like the font or anything like that, download them to your laptop, and they will naturally appear in all of your Adobe programs. And also here you can press regular, some types will have bold or italics. This is your sizing, this is how far you want it spaced, all of those great things. And as you can see, you press this one, which is a little VA. It separates the letters more. So if you want it more custom, this is your actual size itself. And then you can always just press delete. Now this one you can use. I will be honest, I've never really used it. If you have an object that you want to rotate, when you click it, you can kind of just do it yourself. So as you can see, my little mouse, whenever I had the corner part right here, it does that. So you can just rotate it yourself and do that. But if you do want to rotate it, you can do the rotate tool. That is completely up to you. I just personally don't use it that much. The eraser tool, it is what it sounds like. It erases anything that you don't want. So you can see here, it'll erase just a point. So it won't erase the whole thing. It'll erase the points in the area that you erased. It will not erase the entire thing. Now we are going to skip around here because there are some things that I don't really use. You are more than welcome to look into it more. I'm just showing you what I use as far as making a pattern. So here is the eyedropper tool. It may be kind of self-explanatory, but when you click something, you'll be able to see the color. This is really, really useful if you're making mood boards, or maybe you have a certain color palette you want for your pattern collection. All of those are really great. I use this so much. You can import, going from file and place, you can bring in photos. So any photos that you've taken, maybe you went hiking and you love the color of a flower, or like overall atmosphere that you were in, you put it into Illustrator, then you can use your eyedropper tool to click and drag certain photos or certain colors from those photos that you want to use in your mood board or your color palette. Now the next one is the Artboard tool. So there are some times that you're in the middle of making a pattern and you want to change the size of the artboard. So if you're not sure what the artboard is, it is actually our 2000 by 2000 pixel little white square. You can change the sizes by either going on each side and just doing this, or you can come up here, and right here you can see your width and your height, or your X and your Y, depending on what you want to use. I personally use width and height. And you can manually type in the sizes that you want. There are some times that maybe you'll open a square 2000 by 2000 and then realize you want it to be a rectangle, and you can change it here without messing up and having like a weird 2000.3856 pixel thing. You can have a good square number that doesn't get all confusing and jumbled. Now, next thing, we're going to do the fill and the stroke. So the fill is the color completely that will fill the box. And then the stroke is the outline that will be around either your rectangle or whatever shape that you're using. If you are using the paintbrush tool, it will only be the stroke. So it'll be a solid line of just the stroke color. If you are using something like the rectangle tool, you will have the fill and the stroke. The fill will be the whole inside and the stroke will be the border around it. This little button right here where you can see a white square overlapping a black lined square, it's the default. It basically just makes white with a black line around it. That's the default for all Adobe programs. This one is a gradient tool, so if you don't want to go up here and use the gradient button here, you can also make a shape like this, press the gradient tool, and it will do that. And then you can change all of the colors in here. If you don't want black or something like that, you can move these around. You can change all the colors as you want by just clicking. You have your default colors, or you can always use the eyedropper tool if you have pictures or anything in the board as well that you want to choose from. And then this button is none. So when you click it, it goes away. Whatever color you had there is no more. It just goes away completely. It makes it empty. So you could have just a black square line, or you could do the opposite and have a full color box with no stroke. Okay, now we're going to come over here to these. Now, this side may look different. I've customized it to myself, but if you can't find what I'm talking about, I will show you different places that you can find it and add it to this section if you want. So right here is your layers panel. Layers panel is super nice if you have a lot of layers really going on with your pattern. So if you're doing maybe a jungle theme and it's maybe deep dense leaves and then it's animals and then it's more leaves on top of those animals to kind of camouflage them, layers are very, very nice to keep everything cleaner. You can also lock the layers by doing this. So if I want to grab this one, you can't. You can see this little pencil with an X, the little no circle. That means that the layer is locked and I cannot move this hello. So I'd have to unlock it, and now I can move it around as I need. You can also toggle this visibility icon, makes it whole thing go away or the whole thing appear. Next we have our swatches panel. This is where if you want to bring in certain colors and make your own personalized palette, this is where that palette will live. You can press new color group, it will do this, and then from there you can add in all of your color swatches from those photos. These are all your just preset default colors. I personally don't really like any of them, so I'm normally making my own palette, but it is available to you if you want. Next is your brushes. So if you don't want to come over here and press the brushes panel, you also have this over here. Here you can see some of the different brushes that are available. You can also add more by your save brushes or go into different categories. Here is your properties panel. So when you click this, you have the size of the object, so the width, the height. You have your fill, your stroke. You can also make your stroke as thick or as not as you want. You can see right over here the hello is getting thicker and then thinner as I put a bigger or smaller stroke. The opacity just means how much of it you can see or not you can see. Since this is a type You will have characters, which is just the typeface that you would like and all of the sizes that we've already talked about. Here we have, it's called paragraph. It's just if you want it to be aligned in the center, more aligned on the left, the right, it's completely up to you. Then you have a line itself. So if you have a bunch of different words, kind of like hello, goodbye, all of those things, I'll show you real quick. Hello, good day. Now I've put the good on the side, but I want it to be right even with it. So right below hello, I want it to be good. So using my selection tool, I'm going to left click, hold down, grab both of them, and then my properties comes up. I come down and I am going to use the horizontal align center. And pressing that, you can see that it makes it all even. So where that point starts, the point ends, this point ends. For me, it's not perfectly straight. To me, this is more straight, but this is how you would use it. If there is a certain color that you are using and maybe you want it a little bit more red or a little bit more green, this is where you would change those colors, as well as you could change it over here in the fill and stroke. It'll just come up a little differently. So if you're more comfortable with this look, or if you're more comfortable with this more toggled, it is completely up to you. Also down here you can use hex codes. If you find a color you like online and has a hex code, this is where you would enter it. These two I literally never use. It's there just as a default. This, however, is a thing you will probably be using the most making a pattern. If you are like me and you draw either a painting, using your pencil, ink, maybe you're even using Procreate, this image trace tool is what you will use to vectorize your art. Vectorizing art is super cool. I love it. What you will do, we're going to just get rid of this, is come up here, go to place. You're going to find your art that you want to use. So if you have two different files that you want to bring in, you're going to click one, hold shift, and then go and click the other one. So it selects both of them. You're going to press place, and then you can click. You can see a little image of the item that you're about to drop in. And you click, and then after you click, you'll see the second image that you're going to drop in. So you can see that second image now, you can click, and both will appear. Now for this example, I'm just going to use this one because I don't need to make a very detailed pattern, but I'm just going to use this one. I'm going to get rid of the background, which is just the white, which also means I'm going to get rid of some of the lines in the middle, which are also white. Using that image trace tool. Now this is all the default settings. So default is black and white. Also, if you can't find it, you can go to Windows. Image trace is going to be right there. So if it's not on your sidebar, if you go to Windows at the top, this will pop up. But that's default. If you are a watercolor artist, color will work great. There's also grayscale. I normally use black and white. You also have your advanced settings. I rarely touch these, but I do use ignore white, which will erase all of the white in the image. So since I am mainly a digital artist, getting rid of the background and any of the middle bits that are also white is super helpful, so I don't have to waste time clicking through each white piece. For this particular pattern, I'm just going to leave all the settings as is. Press trace, and then this will pop up. Press OK. It'll go through the process, and then ta-da! Now the background is gone, but the images are still connected together. So to get rid of that and to have separate objects, you're going to go up to Object. You're going to click it, press Expand, and then from Expand, you're going to have Object clicked and Fill clicked. Those are perfect. You're going to press OK, and then this will vectorize your image. Now from there, it's still going to be grouped together, so you have to press Ungroup. but because each of mine, it's literally little lines that I made leaves out of, it has now ungrouped each individual line. So I have to now group just the parts of the leaf that I want grouped together. So you go left click holding using your selection tool. I just select the leaf and the parts of the leaf that I want grouped together. You right click, press group, and then you will repeat that for the other 3. Now, if you are interested in making a pattern, I do have a video that takes you step by step of me creating a pattern from very beginning of the file sizes that I use to the end of how I save them. So if you want to see how I make this pattern, please go see that video. And until then, I will see you next week, and thank you for watching.